Right then, we have got a real good interview here. Manchester United's new CEO, Omar Berrada, gave an exclusive tell-all interview to Andy Mitten in United We Stand Summer Special 2025, and he did not hold back. We are talking some big revelations in this one. Why he left Manchester City for United. Talked about hiring Ruben Amorim. He obviously spoke about winning the league by 2028. There's some pretty candid admissions about our dire finances, and even a bit of a Cantona-esque shout out to a new signing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down all of the quotes from Berrada himself, plus give my own perspective on it. And trust me, you're going to want to hear this. And I would say go and make sure you check it out in United We Stand as well. Andy does a sensational job, and he's got a real knack for getting proper good interviews like this. So United We Stand is always a worthwhile subscribe. Right, let's get into it. So Berrada might be a new face to United fans, but he does have quite an interesting backstory. Obviously, he's a former Barcelona executive who then spent a decade at Manchester City. Why leave, the uber successful, very well funded Manchester City for the chaos at Manchester United? Well, according to Omar, when the offer came in, he felt like he was not going to let that train pass by. He said he would have regretted it for his entire life if he'd have said no. So in January 2024, Jim Ratcliffe personally asked him to become United's new CEO, and he jumped at the chance. He met the Glazers, I guess you kind of have to, in Morocco to sort of feel out the dynamics. He resigned from City, and he joined United in a matter of days. So whatever he heard, sounds like it was convincing enough to make him really want to make that move. Once in the door, it sounds like reality hit quite hard, and he said United was even more troubled than it looked on the outside. That's a little bit depressing. But describes it as a whirlwind start. He says on the pitch, the club was struggling, and off it, he discovered major problems behind the scenes. He said they didn't foresee a time, or at the time, that the finances of the club were going to be in such a bad state, which is a worrying omission from someone who's just taken over from CEO. And that obviously set the stage for some real painful measures. More on that in a second. He said he knew he was stepping into a storm, but I kind of respect that he owned the challenge rather than shying away from it. There's got to be something for that one, I would say. One of the other big revelations in the interview came about just how bad United's finances were when he took over. He does openly admit that the club's revenue might be huge, but that the losses and the costs were out of control. He goes on to say, quote, it's not just FFP, but also cash and the ability to operate with your own means, emphasising the fact that United had not been profitable lately. And by September 2024, he had to implement that drastic cost-cutting programme. There was widespread layoffs, if you remember. We covered them on this channel. He initially promised staff that there'd only be one round of redundancies, but then he did have to do a second. To his credit, he does sort of personally apologise for that. He said, I stood up when I announced the second round, and I apologise for having said what I did in September. And I think that's a pretty strong quote. He's not shying away from it. He's not blaming anybody else. He's apologising for things he said. So I think, looking beyond the superficial nature of the apology, there's some stark truth there. United's previous regime left us in an absolute mess. Berrada does go on and suggest that reset in finances in order to survive and build, and that means slashing budgets, letting some employees go, and being far more careful, which I think is the real big needle mover in this. I don't think taking soup off people at Carrington makes all that much of a dent when you're talking about, 70, 80 million pound of wasted transfers. Now, as a fan, it's on one hand sobering to hear the CEO confirm the things that we knew. And at the same time, it's not nice to hear it, but it's kind of refreshing to hear it, that you've actually got a CEO that's... No, he's sat down with... Yeah, Andy's an incredibly respected journalist, but he's also a fan, and as the editor of a fanzine for an interview going in the fanzine, I think Andy wears the hat of a fan. So sitting down with a fan, because that's kind of what he is in this moment, and explaining these things, I think puts a little bit of credit in Berrada's bag. Certainly because you didn't get this. You've never had this from the Glazers. Now, the upside is that Berrada insists that we can be financially stable and win on the pitch at the same time, which I think you have to be a little bit positive about. He's come in, he's looked at the realities of everything that's going on. He's slashed all these costs. They've got rid of a ton of people. And he's saying, it's okay. We can manage with everything that we want to do. And you go, okay, well, I'm worried, but I'm going to have to take your word from this until you prove me wrong, I think. He mentions that we've got to get back to operating profitably, as it did do for a long time, whilst aiming for success. And even though I am sceptical, we have heard about sustainable model talk in the past. Until you address the debt, I don't know how realistic or likely that is possible for us to be. Then on the manager situation, there was chaos. We seemingly go on to back Erik ten Hag and then bin him off and bring in Ruben Amorim. And let's be honest, it ain't gone to plan so far, has it? He sheds light on the why. He dismisses the idea that they nabbed Amorim just to stop City getting him from doing so. He said it wasn't part of his decision. When he was asked about whether Guardiola's contract at City influenced United's decision to move, he said that United initially did consider a short-term interim appointment, but that was scrapped in favour of going all in on a young, dynamic manager the right way. Why Amorim? Well, Omar seems to praise him as being a young coach that's modern, known for fast attacking football, developing youth. The board knew this season was going to be short-term pain. I don't think they quite understood how much short-term pain, but he says they knew. As he implements his ideas, and it was absolutely short-term pain. Probably a little bit more than short-term pain. It was our worst finish in decades. And a lot of fans have been tearing their hair out over Amorim, over the system. And Berrada has backed his philosophy. Even pulling up Johan Cruyff, which I'm here for anyone that wants to reference Johan Cruyff in any situation, but he does go on and reference Johan Cruyff in the interview. He says, Cruyff played with a 3-4-3 and nobody said it was defensive. So in other words, they're backing the manager and trust the process and shut the fuck up, is I think what they kind of say. Which... He did play a 3-4-3, but he also had a pretty good team to do that as well. He didn't have Rasmus Højlund up front. Again, being sceptical, I hear that and I say, okay, you invoke Cruyff. I close my eyes and I think about Cruyff. Cruyff had a team that was known as the All-Star team, the Dream Team. We do not. We have still got players that are trying to be shoehorned in and play as wing-backs. You've also got to deal with Premier League football, which, from a tactical point of view, is not playing on the continent. But he didn't throw Amorim under the bus. He acknowledged that results have been awful, but that they are sticking to the long game. Highlighted that fans have to be patient. He says we haven't really given them many reasons to support this year, but they have supported us, and that's true. Matchday fans have not been happy, but they've not revolted, and instead, by and large, kept the faith. If nothing else, it seems like the manager and the CEO, and you'd presume Wilcox in the mix with this, are all aligned on the rebuild. And Berrada's rationale for Amorim shows that they wanted to go down the process of a long-term appointment and not a quick fix. So it does ask for patience. Let's see if he gets the patience. Now, for the headline grabber, Project 150, which is United's long-term plan. What's Project 150? Basically, it means winning the Premier League by 2028, United's 150th anniversary. He's publicly set a deadline for United to be the top of the league again in 3 years' time. And he goes on to elaborate, and he says, Project 150 is a simple idea. We're going to celebrate our 150th birthday, and we're going to do so by winning the Premier League. Oh boy! Delusional. Some are going to call him delusional. But he's aimed high. He's ambitious for sure. But he even doubled down on it. He said, I firmly believe that we can do it. We have 2 or 3 summer windows to build a team to start competing to win the Premier League. If we can achieve it before then, we'll be happy. We're not going to achieve it before then. Even if everything and the stars align for us, we're not going to win the league by then. However, winning the league by 2028, stated public goal that he doubled down on. On one hand, I love the optimism and I love the pressure that it invites. You can't sit there with the fans and say, we're going to be champions by 2028. And if we're 15th in 2028, be like, just trust the process, man. You've, like I said, you've invited pressure. You've set a deadline. Let's see if you can deliver it, because Jesus Christ, that will be a way for us to do that. Wow. And to be fair, this has happened at Barcelona. In 2003, they were on the floor. By 2006, they'd won the European Cup again. It is a turnaround that Berrada mentions as inspiration for this. As a jaded United fan, I feel like we've heard this before. We've heard managers talk about projects. And on one hand, I go, managers have spoken about projects, but how many of them have actually been given a project? One transfer window of loads of signings that they didn't necessarily want or ask for isn't necessarily being a part of a project. So Amorim, Wilcox, Berrada, the team around them have to deliver significant process every season leading up to 2028 for us to even think about putting in a title challenge. I appreciate that he's communicated the vision. I appreciate that he's put a deadline on it. I appreciate that he's set it high and not just asked for challenge. He spoke about winning it. And I even like that he's put it to align with an anniversary. It's audacious. It's risky. It might be delusional, but at least it's fucking clear. It's black and white. If nothing else, we'll know by 2028 whether these lot have got the ability to deliver it or not. I'm a fan. I'm fucking here for it. But, you've given yourself some pressure. Now, if you're going to win the league by 2028, you have to start signing the right players. And he touched on the summer transfer activity. And it sounds like United are trying to be decisive. We certainly started June being decisive. It's fell off a little bit since then. And he speaks about Cunha. He says he was an important one to get done. We're going to do our best to do more signings quickly. Emphasize the need to act fast, to act smart. But he gushed about Cunha and his charisma. He says he thinks the fans are going to fall in love with the flair, the confidence, and he even went as far as to invoke King Eric. He says he's got a bit of swagger about him, and people are really going to take to, dare I say, Cantona-esque. Fucking Cantona-esque. Don't do it to me. Favourite ever United player. Hell of a comparison for a new signing that hasn't kicked a ball for us. But, as a fan, hearing the new CEO put the word Cantona in front of any player's name is equal parts exciting and terrifying. It's terrifying because it suggests Cunha has, not terrifying because of this, but, it's exciting because he's suggesting that Cunha has the real star quality. He won't be a patch on Cantona, but do you know what I mean? It beats the old corporate platitudes about how many shirts he's going to sell, or if he's the right thing for the manager, or do you know what I mean? He's just come in and be like, fucking see the bollocks on this guy. So, yeah. One theme I think it was important for him to touch on was the rebuilding of the relationship with the fans. And the last 12 months have been rough. The worst league finish in ages, it's one thing, but the real controversial decisions on ticket price and the protests, and he acknowledged that. He said the damage has been done, stressed that winning back the fans' trust is going to be crucial. Generally impressed by supporter loyalty despite everything. Said it was amazing. We still sold out every game, still back the team through the doom and gloom. Knows United can't take it for granted. Says we have to make some difficult decisions. We have to find a compromise. We can't lose the fans' loyalty. So it's good that they're thinking about that, but you can't be fucking charging kids 66 quid and no APs. And some of the decisions have been fucking laughable, to be honest. But it's interesting that he's acknowledging it. You know, maybe even reversing the policy after talking with the fan reps. It's rare. It's good to hear. But again, you know, like Jim Radcliffe's interview with Gary Neville, where he was like, "Oh, no one fucking said that to us." Start speaking to people before you make these decisions. Like, is no one going, "Hang on, lads, like, you're all paid millions a year"? Is no one been like, "Do you know what? Let me out. Maybe we should fucking pump the brakes a little bit on this one." He does go on to say that he always answers emails that he gets from fans. Maybe we'll drop him an email and see if he actually replies to that. But you know, give him a bit of credit. He's trying to humanise the club's leadership, which for years we have been ignored. So that's a step in the right direction, I think. All in all, Andy has delivered yet again with a fantastic interview. I think Berrada has given us a bit of a fascinating peek behind the curtains at United, which is always good. Project 150, winning the league in 3 years' time. The strategy in terms of backing a young manager, trying to rebuild smartly, trying to cut the fat, the mistakes. It's the kind of transparency that I think is only a positive thing. But the clock is ticking. You give yourself a public stated deadline the way you did of winning the league. You better deliver. And, you know, I hope you deliver at the end of the day. Anyway, that's what I thought about it. Anything from your guys' perspective? Do you think it's PR? Do you think it was good? Tell me in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. And what should I put in an email to him? Because I will email him. See you in a bit.